See, while your soul is not open to growth, it's impossible for new information to enter it. So many of you may not have seen our discussions that we've placed on the internet and also on our hard disk drive synchronization service, which are all about the human soul and how it functions. I don't know if many of you have actually watched those videos, but my suggestion is to watch them because they give you a lot of information about how God created the human soul to function. Right? And it's very important for you to understand how the human soul functions because there are certain things about the human soul that many of you are trying to overcome that you cannot overcome with the methods you're using. So to give you an example, there is a principle in the human soul of suppression. In other words, this principle illustrates that if you suppress one emotion, that you will not be able to avoid suppressing other emotions. So in other words, if you have an attitude where you want to suppress one emotion, all other emotions will also get partially or fully suppressed in the process. You can't avoid it. If you try to shut down the flow of emotion in your soul, even if it's just in one thing, then the flow of emotion will shut down with many other things as well. That's the way God created your soul. So whenever you choose to suppress, you're actually choosing not only to suppress the emotion you're currently trying to suppress, but you're also choosing to suppress any joy, any happiness, any other emotions that are positive or any other emotions that are you're not as afraid of will all also get suppressed, right? Just through that choice of suppressing one emotion. Now that's a principle of suppression. Now many of you did that yesterday. You were suppressing one emotion, which is an emotion of, am I really growing? How exhausted am I? That kind of emotion. And in the process of suppressing that emotion, you suppress many other emotions. And that basically meant that another aspect of the soul came into play. And this is the aspect. There's an aspect of your soul that I've called preclusion. And that aspect of the soul is, if there is something inside of you emotionally that's out of harmony with truth and love, in other words, it's error that exists in your soul that's out of harmony with truth and love, and it's in there emotionally, and the truth that's trying to be presented is the opposite to it. While that thing exists within the soul that's error, and while it stays within your soul, it will preclude the new thing from entering. It doesn't matter how much you sit down and swat about it. It doesn't matter how much you hear about it. It doesn't matter how many of AJ's presentations you'll hear about it. It doesn't matter how much you study about it. It doesn't matter how much you do anything about it at all. It will not change until you're willing to release the error that precludes the new truth from entering you. Does that make sense? Until you're willing to release the error, then basically there is no hope of this new truth entering you. So that's an aspect that I've termed preclusion. Now this is how God designed your soul. God designed it purposefully like that, right? It's great when it's the other way around. Once truth has entered your soul as an emotion, error can't penetrate your soul anymore because the truth precludes it from entering you. But when error is in your soul, the aspect of preclusion requires that you need to release the error before the truth can enter. And many of us are not doing that. What many of us are trying to do is we're trying to overcome the error rather than feel it and release it using our feelings. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to overcome our errors by ignoring them or denying they even exist. And you can't do that. The soul doesn't work that way. Right? So every time we try to do that, we're going to run into trouble. Right? And that's why I suggest you have a look at it's on the frequently asked questions channel of the YouTube if you haven't got them on a disc. What am I getting? A bit of buzzing. Can you hear buzzing? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What I'm going to suggest to you is that you look at the frequently asked questions channel, particularly about how the human soul functions, and then ask yourself, if you understood this information, really understood it, would you be so resistive to hearing new truth? And one thing that concerns me is many of you are enrolled to come to our assistance group. That's 8 days straight of presentations. 8 days. Many of you struggle hearing 2 days in 3 months. So how are you going to cope with 8 days in a row? There's only one way you're going to cope, and that is every day you're going to have to release some emotion. That's the only way you're going to cope. And unless you come prepared to release some emotion every day and to get out of your denial and to get into some of the feelings that you actually feel, it's going to be impossible for you to actually stand being there. And it's going to be also a waste of your money and time, right?